It's in this book.
Hi, everybody. This is Lady Shanika Harris, and I am here with First Ladies Inc. here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I have online with me, we are the Wisdom Table, and I have online with me Lady Nikita Martin. We had such a great time last Monday talking about the Journey to Freedom book, and it's definitely a great read. And so the whole month of August, we have dedicated our time to go on live with the Wisdom Table and just journey through the book called The Journey to Freedom. So I am so excited today. We're on week number 2. And we are ready to get started. So without delay, because we want to make sure that Lady Nikita Martin has the time she needs to facilitate and bring this great information to us on today. So without further ado, let's receive Lady Nikita Martin.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome. So what I wanted to do first is just share a couple of more things from our last week. We got this hour of power, so we kind of sometimes, ladies, we can talk and we don't get it all in. So I just wanted to brush up for any of those who haven't heard the first one, which was our week 1 and 2. This week will be our 3 and 4. But on our 1 and 2, our 2, our 1 mainly broke down everything, our week 1, and then our 2, we talked about vision and training and not trying, and the importance of pain and feelings, the gift of feelings. So those were some topics. We talked about hope and change. And so when you get a chance, invest in you, go back and and watch that that we recorded from that. But we just also wanted to share some more things on the topic of vision and just a scenario to show you what we went through and talked about in the book for that week. And so for your vision, we need to know that without hope, there is no vision. And this is going to go into also our week 3, which is going to be talking about negative thinking and the inner critic and defining hope. So without hope, there is no vision for the future. They are intertwined. We will need to go through a process to discover that vision by evaluating our current thoughts and feelings, challenging what we have come to accept as normal, and learning to reframe that failure as a way to learn more about ourselves. So I also want to get this week, we want to get a little feedback, just yes or no, or, put in the comments if you're here, say hello to us, let us know you're here. Come on in and let us know. But one scenario that I really wanted to read to you all today that really stood out and is going to bless you is what our book, Journey to Freedom, says. And if you have the book, this is our topic 2 on vision. Day 3, pages 17 through 24 will be the pages. If you look, I don't know if you went ahead and kind of went through it a little bit on your own, but on page 19, it says, a recent television program showed a method for trapping monkeys. The natives made a hole in a log and put bait inside. The hole was just big enough to allow the monkey room to get his open hand inside the log. The monkey reached his hand in to get the bait, but when his fingers closed on it, he couldn't get his fist back through the hole. The monkey was determined onto what he had, and soon he was captured, trapped by his own greed. We are much like this monkey. When we hold on to a life of normality, we fail to do the one thing that will free us, which is to let go and try a new life. So I wanted to read that to just brush up a little bit on our week 2, because I know a lot of times, we are so comfortable. We want to be, like in that normality as the monkey, but we know that it doesn't, if we're doing change and we're transforming and transitioning into our change, then we have to learn that all things are new. Things change, and I know for some there may be hard to let go of things, even some that are bad in our lives. But what we have to realize is in order to receive, we have to believe. And we have to, sometimes, I say you clench your hands like this. Well, clenching your hands, you're not receiving. You have to open that. You have to be open to the new things, because that is what is going to help you with your vision. And that is going to bring about a change for your life and help you on that journey to freedom process. There's another one that I want that stands out. And this is about the gift of feelings. This is on our day 5, pages 33 through 43. And this will come from pages 34 through 35. But part of ending normality and moving toward hope and vision is learning to observe our feelings and to understand them. We must also learn to lean into our pain rather than away from it. The more we try to avoid our pain, the more stuck we become in unhealthy behaviors. There are many real and valid reasons we may want to avoid our pain. In group, we have a chance to process that in a safely and compassion. And so what that taught me, even me going through, like I said, everything I share is going to be pretty much something I've experienced in my life. And what I know is, in order to get that freedom, in order to get that healing, in order to get that deliverance, you cannot run. We can cover it up, we can band-aid it up, just as long as possible, but it will come a day that it will blow up. And so we have to learn to not avoid sharing our feelings, I even shared how, we didn't talk about much. I didn't learn, how to talk about this or communicate like this or share this. You just kind of keep going. But it comes into your adult years and you have behaviors. We know ourselves. If it's certain things that we know in our life that we have done and done and done and done, of course, we got to ask God to help us, first and foremost. But you should be able to know, especially in your adult years, like, what is this behavior? What is this process? What is this thing that I keep continuing to do, but I don't want to do it, and I need to change? Well, it's okay, to process it safely with someone else. It's okay to discuss it with someone instead of covering it, because you want that feeling to come out. As we talked about last week, if you go back and watch, our feelings are different feelings, and it gives 8 feelings, and all of those feelings do have a benefit and an impairment, but they all will help us towards our transition and our transformation. Another thing that Journey to Freedom says is we all struggle with our feelings on a daily basis. Most of us are afraid to feel our feelings because of what we think it means or what might happen. We also have been taught that some feelings are bad and we shouldn't feel them. Feelings are not bad. It is the actions that sometimes result when we experience a feeling that can push us to anxiety, depression, isolation, confusion, and self-destructive outlets. Our journey to freedom must take us through our feelings. Our feelings must be embraced and be processed if we are to find freedom and fullness of life. When we avoid our feelings, we are going to stay stuck. And I don't know if you've heard this before, when the enemy gets you off to yourself, and then you're in your feelings too, what all kind of stuff comes through your mind, that self-destruction and, that isolation. I always say iron sharpens iron, and it's okay to feel those feelings, but let's see where the root cause, and let's get free and healed from those feelings so that we can move forward in our lives. We don't want to suppress those feelings, but we want the benefit of that feeling to make us whole, to make us, grow, to make us mature, to make us better, in our lives. We all go through things, they say, what don't kill you make you stronger, and so It's definitely, I always say everything that I go through or went through or will go through, because I always say you're either going in something, coming out, or you're in the middle of it. So all of it is for the glory to God, and all of it is to build, And so we have to remember that all of it, you're going to experience scriptures, in this life, walking through this life, things you go through. You're going to be able to take that and trust God by faith, and go back to that scripture that will help you through that feeling, will help you through that pain or that shame or that guilt or whatever the feeling that you may have. So we just wanted to, share a little bit with who may be new on here on tonight, but also make sure you invest in you. Go back and look, at the last video that we did, and it's going to discuss those topics there. But moving forward, we're going into our week 3. And so our week 3 is about overcoming fear, isolation and blame, powerlessness, negative thinking, the inner critic, and then peace and forgiveness. So the paradigm shift that must happen in admittance is that there are areas of our life that we cannot change alone. The myth of self-sufficiency keeps us stuck in denial, but the power of grace allows God to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. It all begins with admission of powerlessness. So in order to go from transformation to reformation, we must first admit. I always say that that's the part of being healed. You got to admit it first. You got to expose that thing first. And, it's just like the beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit, is the biblical, we call it powerlessness, and so really the powerlessness that we're going to talk about comes directly from the beatitudes. So on our topic 1, the negative thinking, the inner critic, because if especially women, we're always our own worst inner critic, but negative thinking is anxiety based. Negative thinking will try to keep us rigid and unchanging. We must first acknowledge that we engage in negative thinking and become aware of it. Then we must get to the roots from which those messages grow. Remember that though we are using the word fear here, we are actually referring to worry and anxiety, the impairments of acknowledging true fear. So that shows, if you, like I said, go back to the first video, the impairments of the fear, but there's also a benefit to that fear. What we must know is inside of each of us, there is an inner critic that reminds us of our frailty and our faults. Some of the inner criticism stems from something in our past. We devalue ourselves and place ourselves in the discount bin. We personify the inner critic, making it the spokeswoman for the way the world sees us. It nags and it deceives. It uses comparisons to devalue us. No matter how we perform, it likes to tell us what we should have done, not allowing us to enjoy any success. It makes us feel deeply inadequate. Eventually, we begin to believe these negative messages. Change takes place when we learn not to listen to the inner critic, instead listen to God. It is also essential to have people in our lives who affirm and love us. And so I like to piggyback every time I read something out of the book. That came from the pages of 69 through 73 if you have your book. But I always would say, the enemy, the inner critic or whatever, the enemy can be like an instigator. You got one thing going and you got this other stuff going in the back of your head, or in your ear, like a little fly, you know what I'm saying? And so we definitely have to learn how to see ourselves. I always say, in order to walk in all that God has called us to be and walk in, we have to first see ourselves as God sees us. Now, don't be, I say don't be arrogant with it to think that, God needs you if you keep on doing what you're doing, because he don't have to choose any of us. But in order to walk in the full purpose and manifestation of your life and the destiny that God has called you to walk in, we must know who we are. We must know whose we are. We must know who we are in God. And so instead, like I always take it back to the word, you need to see and look at scriptures that will tell you, that will speak to you, who you are in Christ. There's many. I am a child of God. I have been justified. I am a saint. You have to feed yourself with those things of God, and his word, and let that affirm you, let that affirm you. And also, it is, like I say, we're better together. It's always good to have somebody in your life, that's essential for you and that will help you, that will support you, that will build you, that will, you know what I mean? Even when you're wrong, they can tell you you're wrong. I always say, if somebody don't tell me if I'm wrong, they don't really love me and they not my friend. I don't want to hear all the time what, you might be doing right. We're not perfect. You know what I mean? We're striving. God is helping us. God is molding us. But if you got these friends or whoever around you that can never tell you, or maybe you're not to that place yet where you can receive it, but it's helpful, it's change. Anytime you're thinking about making or needing to make personal changes, anytime the growth and the new things are happening, we have to have that in our lives with us. So the next topic in this is overcoming fear. And that's, if you have the book, going to be day 8, pages 58 through 62. Chronic fear can lead us down 2 unhealthy paths: isolation and blame. If we listen to our inner critic, we stop living into our full potential. Sometimes we believe ourselves to be victims in life and place blame on others. Or we may isolate ourselves so that the inner critic becomes quieter. Living in isolation minimizes our risk taking, but it also severely limits our perspective. And so that's definitely something that we have to know and we have to think about when it comes to fear. I always use, my kids as examples. Of course, we have to see God as he sees us, but we cannot, try to isolate it to cover it, because eventually, I always say, you go through one test, you don't pass it. By God's grace and mercy, you're going to go through it again. So eventually you're going to have to get to that place to where, okay, what behavior am I doing? That I'm talking about my kids or myself, what behavior am I doing that I'm not getting through this, that I'm not getting over this thing? Why, I tell my son, you blame everybody for everything. No, you got to take the responsibility. You know what I mean? I have 4 sons, so one of, they all different, so I have to share these things, because I know that until then, as we spoke about before, the admittance, until then, you're just minimizing, you're just keeping yourself really bound, to what, like you said, the things that God really, the full potential, and like God, God knows our best, our what they say, I always say with my kids, or I feel like God says with us, I know you can do better. So when you say you're not doing your best, you can do better, and so you definitely do not want to let that unhealthy path be with you. To be free on this journey, as we're doing this book, you have to not isolate yourself and play the blame game. You got to move forward. If you want to be made well, as we spoke in week 2, if you want to be made well, there's going to be responsibility. There's going to be new things. There's going to be things that's going to help you to get to that full potential. There's going to be people that's going to be in your life. Yeah, your circle, like me, might be small, but let that still be the one that's going to love you and tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. There is a central struggle at the core of our being, and that is fear. A fear-based life is one that I am well familiar with. And I'm just reading off the scenarios, and this is coming from page 60. I believe that the most important journey for all of us is the journey from a fear-based life, living in the grips of the debilitating symptoms of chronic fear, to a faith-based life, a life founded in the courage and freedom that only God can offer. And that right there alone, you know, um, brings about change. That brings about courage, that brings about freedom. When you have faith in God, you know, that's freedom. That takes courage. I always say certain things that, I've, through the help of God, accomplished in life or done or received. Honey, that ain't just something it takes courage. It takes courage to be, in certain areas in your life. So we have to know, I always say fear God and live. That's the main thing. You should trust God. You should trust God and what he has to offer. And that's only what he can do for us, to bring us that courage and that freedom.
That's good. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's good that because we are in this hidden, what is it called? This section.
Yep, the hidden
traps. Okay, so this particular one is about overcoming the state of fear. And when we think of fear, because a lot of times with people, I know even you were talking about kids, a lot of them who, especially the boys, they don't fear nothing, or they put that persona up that they don't fear anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which we know that that's not true. But when we begin to look at fear, some of the things that causes us to fear, when I was actually reading it, just doing a refresher on it, one of the things was the fear of dogs, the fear of snakes, and the fear of needles. And it's funny, we talked about the fear of snakes because we just like last week, it is so funny, we live near a creek. And we had one of those people trying to invade our new space. It was so hilarious. I was just like, oh God, it kept me out of my new room for like 2 days. Literally, I was about to go to the hotel. I was like,
yeah.
I was telling my husband, I was like, I am finna go. He was like, hold up.
You can have the house.
Think about this. We got all these people in the house. You know what I'm saying? I was like, they're bad for themselves.
Right.
But it's just, that was a fear of mine. Even I had to pull my neighbor over. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We all just was like trying to find this rodent and just like get it away from us. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about, living out, out from no man's land. It's like, you sort of get caught up with all these other things. And so even in life, there's things that we actually fear. You know what I'm saying? And just coming to the realization of it that, hey, I fear this. Some people have the fear of speaking in front of people. Some people have the fear, of even relationships, building new relationships.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of their old history of what they actually experienced. And so those are some of the things that I just wanted to bring out. And if you are in that state of, fear, how can they walk through that process? How can they, get out of that? Because I know it's a mind thing, it's emotions, it's your spirit. Like all these things are entwined together that cause these emotions to, to react. Like when I think about last week, I was just like, oh my God, like the whole time before we renovated that room, it was like we never had that problem. You see what I'm saying? Like we never had rodents, like, coming in trying to invade us. And so, oh my God, the guy who was the builder of it, he was like, well, Miss Harris, you live right here. You know what I mean? Like we have nothing to do about himself. It's like you live near the creek.
Right.
Like, all kinds of stuff that's like flowing through that. And it's like, oh my God. Literally, I was about to leave. I was yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh,
sort of help, those people, because I went through that. I mean, like literally,
Mhm.
I mean, they had to talk me down. And I mean, it may sound funny to some people, but when you're afraid of something or you're scared, I
Mhm.
mean, all your emotions, everything is interactive with that. You see what I'm
Right,
saying? And
right.
so, I mean, because why was I fearful? I was scared that when I go to sleep, it's gonna come on me. You see what I'm saying? It's gonna
Mhm.
it's going to poison me. It's going to do this. All those things are going to do that. You know, I was afraid. So
Right.
even though that was my fear, somebody else, because like my neighbor, she wasn't fearing this rodent. You see what I'm saying? She was like,
Mhm.
she was walking around. It was so funny. And her husband was scheduled to do a surgery the next day. It was like, oh my God, like we was on like a goose chase. It was just wild. I mean, what they was. I mean, I was like back somewhere else. You see what I'm saying? I was in the safety zone, but it was like,
Right,
my husband,
right.
I was like, okay, y'all can handle that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I
Mhm.
was packing, and I was about
Oh
to get
yeah.
back. But thank God, we sort of worked it out. And I'm still here. So go ahead.
And did you get the snake? I mean, what happened with the snake? I want to hear that
So
part.
did Bobby is still on the loose. So y'all say a prayer for
Well,
him.
he probably
That's not
gone
for
now.
me, okay? He's still on the
He
loose, and
probably
I'm talking about it to
gone.
come on. I mean, it's crazy, and and I'm telling you, like I was like, Lord, and I said, this is the devil. You see what I'm saying? He was trying to, take me out with my mind, my emotions, all kinds of stuff. Like I was all over the place. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
and that's what happens when you are in a fearful situation, when you're in a fearful state. I mean, you literally, have like your adrenaline going, my
Mhm.
heart was racing. Every time I saw my shadow or anything, I was jumping. I mean, it was really crazy, and I think
Right.
what was it? Tonight is Monday. Okay, so the last time my husband saw it, oh my God, I think it was Saturday night. So, Saturday night, I could not stay. That was the devil. You see what I'm saying? Because that's
Right.
you know what I mean? But that's how the enemy works. He keeps you from your blessing
Come
by
on.
keeping you stuck in fear. You see
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Oh
And to be
yeah.
honest, I'm still
Mm.
fearful. You know what I mean? Like I have not recovered from that. And I'm not so sure that may happen.
Right.
It's
Right.
yeah. So anyway, if we could go over some steps, of how to, help
Definitely.
somebody who is in that mind fear state. And I hope you
Definitely.
can speak to me too, but I don't think that I'm gonna tackle that, rodent. So go ahead, my sister.
So it's funny you say that because, even with this concept that was read, it talked about, isolating and blame. So you were being scared of a snake. Isolation is going to be the last thing that you're going to do. You see what I'm saying? But some people, the chronic fear makes them isolate. We know there's a snake and everybody's situation is different. It could be another fear, but first, like I said, we have to admit that fear. You're scared of snakes. I'm scared of, you know what I mean? I don't want to be involved with no snake or no rodent in my house. They can have it, you know. And so you were able to get the help from your husband talking you down or whatever, and then y'all pulled in the neighbor, you might even pull in the people that come and do with the animals, out the but at the main thing too is God, like we got our people around us,
Mhm.
but we have to, like you said with the enemy, we have to ask God to help us. We have to ask God to, give our mind peace. We have to read out the scriptures that go with that, speak those things. I always think about, it's even like how if you're in a swimming water or something like that, and somebody starts panicking, well, all they need to do is float, and when they float, you know what I mean? When they just get still and they float, then they're not drowning, the process of not drowning. And so that's another example, just to trust God. Even to do that, you have to trust God that I'm going to lay back here in this water and I'm just going to float in this water rather than drown. I might be in 13 feet of water, but if I just relax if I just, bring it on in, ask God to help me when it might not be anybody right there beside you, at that point. But these are just different steps. Then the main thing is God. The main thing is trusting God and giving him, that's that faith-based life, as it read here at the end, to have that courage and freedom. And see, faith makes you whole. They say in the Bible, God says that without faith, it's impossible to please
me.
So we have to have that faith. And even with the snake, you say, God, the first devil I bind you, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Or even I always say, let's pray ahead of time.
I'm out of here. Okay.
Right. You trying to get my house or what? Look, okay. The enemy ain't got to steal it. I'm just going to give it to him. So take it back, and have good night's rest and trust God and peace. Because even when you said that, I've been to where it was something right over our bed. Coming through something up there. We got this nice, pretty light fixture and all the, all this stuff. And it was something, I don't know if it was a hole. We never did. I mean, he got up there and he looked, we had moved and stuff, into our home or whatever. And, like you said, the people that live here, they would go pick, we have water here on our land. And so they would go out and get in it and kayak, and, the son would pick frogs. And so they loved all that. You know what I mean? Well, we knew what we were coming to, but of course, I prayed ahead of time. I said, I don't want, but I don't know what it was. Like I said, I never, to this day, I couldn't tell you what it was. But guess what? I ain't losing no sleep. Now, like I said, the first couple of nights, my husband, I still slept in the room. I can't believe I did that, honestly. Because he went up there and he packed something up. I don't know. He put something there to make me feel a little more, it's okay. You know what I mean? And so after that, I mean, every now and again, I'll still think about it.
Did y'all ever find it? Did y'all ever? You don't know what it was, and did y'all ever find it?
No. Guess what? I trust God.
Okay. More power to you. More power to you, sister.
I ain't losing no sleep.
Okay. So, but with me, I will say that my husband came out with me because I was, even though it was in that new location, I still was a panic. You know what I mean? I still was fearful. I still was like, having my phobias and seeing a shadow, jumping and scared. I mean, and so, I mean, and that just goes to show you how real fear really is. The whole purpose of me saying that is that people can really relate to how if you're afraid. Even with a dog, I remember when I was in college and it was me and some of my friends, and we had caught the wrong bus because none of us had cars until like our sophomore junior year. And so we was walking, we had went to the mall. At that time, I think Antioch was like a real popular mall at that time. And so we ended up getting on the wrong bus and all this kind of stuff. So we was walking down, what is that long street? I can't think of it now, but it was like a long road that we were going down to try to get to the mall. And the guy was like, oh, the mall is like straight down there. He said it like it was like a couple of, steps away. It was a long road that we had to walk. We walked through a neighborhood. And get this, we was priceless. So we was already scared. Well, I was, because I came, from a country town, and I ain't embarrassed where I came from. And so my other friend, she was from Chicago, so she used to the big city. But then, like that's a whole nother different world. You know what I mean? Like they used to ducking and diving. You know what I mean? We are used to the country stuff. But the thing was that the dog began to come down, like he was coming down off a hill. And oh my God, you talking about fear? I mean. You know what I'm saying? And so fear is really real, but while I was running, I was pleading the blood of Jesus and all kinds of stuff. And my friend was like, you talking about somebody that's prayed up. I say, ain't know what else to do. You know what I mean? And so it's like fear is really something that's really real. You know what I mean? You feel it in every part of your being. And so just giving people some practical steps that they can use to get through that fear.
Right. Yes, definitely. So Like I said, first when we admit it, and we have others around us, to help us with that fear, we get in our word, you know, to, like I say all the time, get ahead of it, and that main thing is asking God to help us, showing us how and pleading the blood and help us, how to deal with this fear. We're not supposed to fear anything really besides God, so we have to really grab hold to that, grab hold to God and our relationship with God to be in our to be able for that faith, and like as our one of our people said, yes, false evidence appearing real. And so we cannot let that hinder us or terrify us or I mean, it can cripple you, you know what I mean, and hold you so you will be so bound, and so we definitely need that faith in God, to help us, even if there's something that we have to say, God, I believe, but help my unbelief. There's a scripture for that as well. So get in the word, get that relationship. Like you might have a relationship with a friend, have a relationship with God, and you will overcome that fear. You will be able to stand and walk in your full potential. You will be able to, as she said, she's still going on, even though the snake, I'm still sleeping, every now and again, the little instigator or whatever might come, but you bring it under subjection, and stuff like that. And so definitely live a faith-based life, to receive that courage and freedom that only God can offer, because that's a gift, and we need to know how to utilize and take care of those gifts because God doesn't have to do it. And so we also got to make sure that we're, receiving and taking all that in, as well, and having that courage and being free with that. And so, so we'll move on from our fear. We want to make sure we kind of hit everything. The topic 3, that's on our day 9, pages 63 through 68, is talking about isolation, blame, and procrastination. So one scenario that our book gives us on page 64 and 65, it says, with denial comes blame. Most people in denial want other people to change, and so they blame others. Not only do we blame others, but we also hide from them. A Dr. Petraska, which is a creator of the trans-theoretical model of change, believes that many people struggle to stay in their isolation because it feels safe there. You can't fail in isolation. It leads to the false belief that you can change later, which leads to the next enabler. Procrastination is another form of denial. It causes us to overlook our problems. Denial is a rejection of the truth, whereas procrastination accepts the truth but delays the action required to correct the problem, creating a habitual pattern. And so that scenario for me is so great to use, for blame, because what we understand is, if we can just stay in that, that's why I said we have to identify the behaviors. We have to, like I shared at the beginning when I went through this Journey to Freedom class, before I started facilitating it, I knew there were certain behaviors that I had, and I would be like, okay, never really put too much into it, but I knew it was like, okay, something got to give. You got to stop that. You know what I mean? And going through this class, like I said, was able to show me that was a habitual pattern, and that delays, my action to the required thing that's going to correct that problem. And so, like we say in the beginning, the first thing is admittance and being able to expose and bring that thing out, like they say, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. When I'm an adult, I put away childish things. And so, yeah, who didn't go through things growing up? Who didn't maybe have, a certain childhood? But does that make you or break you? You know what I mean? Does that make you stay in that pattern, that generational curse, or does that make you come forward to even a full potential of more? And then you can go back and give to others because you've broke that habit, you've broke that isolation and blame and procrastination off of your life because you received freedom. You wanted to change. You are no longer in that denial. You are no longer in that rejection, and so it takes that to move forward. And so we have to see and pinpoint what those behaviors are, and then we're able to go in. And like they say with blame, it could be, an unforgiveness thing, which we're going to talk about that in topic 5. But it could be an unforgiveness thing, trying to blame, Well, no, like we tell our kids, you are responsible for your own actions.
Right.
If Sally Sue do it and you do it, you might be the one to get, in trouble or whatever.
Okay.
You need to do what you're supposed to do. Don't worry about what they do, And so that blame game, I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm gonna use my kids. I still tell, my grown college, hey, wait a minute. I've been watching you. I'm not gonna say too much because they need to see it themselves, but I'm like, no, we've been doing this since we was back here. Now it's time to go, kind of, you can't blame nobody else for you.
Right.
And so we have to be free from that blame, and that denial. You have something, lady.
Yeah, I was going to say that in the book, it talked about Cain and Abel, and it talked about Abraham, was it Adam and Eve, and how they was actually the things that they did, and they was in denial. And I thought that was good that he brought that out about how Adam and Eve, they actually ate from the forbidden fruit tree. You see what I'm saying? They ate that fruit from the forbidden fruit tree. And so, and then what did Adam do? He did the blame game. It was the woman that she gave me, like, what? You know what I mean? And so that is so true. How it started at the beginning.
Yeah.
It started at the beginning. Okay.
Right.
We played the blame game and try to put it off on Eve. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, this is when I went back and did my study, I noticed that their eyes was open when Adam ate.
Yes.
Adam ate. Okay, so even if Eve ate, she still was covered. You see what I'm saying? She still was covered. So her covering, which was her husband, you see what I'm saying? When he ate, when she gave it to him and he ate, then that's how it all just went.
Right, because he's supposed to be lead.
Yeah. Yes.
And he, like we just said, doing
the blame game, and it shows like even in the Bible. And then it was the Cain, their children. It even went down to the kids. You see how this stuff is? You know what I mean? It's like, if we as the parent or the leader or whoever you are that's leading a group, you have to be able to you know what I'm saying, overcome those things, because whoever's coming behind you or whoever's following you, they actually is going to follow in your footsteps. And that's what happened with the children. Now we have a comment from Lady Chambers. Let's see what she's saying. The influence of a woman. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, lady.
Yeah, so that's definitely right. Like you said, the blame game. I always say, if they jump off, you're going to jump off too. And so that's definitely, because like you said, Adam was the one that, when he done it, it was different. And that's why I tell my kids, just because they did it, and they might have got it when you do it, it might be a different consequence. So we definitely have to be careful with that. Moving along, our time here is topic 4 is on powerlessness. And this is going to be from day 11, pages 76 through 81. So when we are able to move away from denial, blame, isolation, and procrastination, we move toward the humble admittance that we do have areas of our lives that need help. We cannot change alone. And a scenario with that is one day, and this is what Journey to Freedom says, one day I was walking to a friend who was going through a tough bout of depression. His life was in turmoil. He was sitting there talking and gazing around the room when his eyes stopped. He had fixated on the list of beatitudes that I have hanging on my office wall. And he remarked, I guess blessed are the poor in spirit means you're blessed when all you have to hope in is God. I think that is one of the greatest definitions of what Jesus meant in that beatitude. When we have come to the end of ourselves and our self-sufficiency has failed, we arrive at a place of defeat. When all I can do is throw up my hands and say, I surrender, God, I need you. This is the beginning of real hope and the beginning of God's transformation in my life. And that comes to you from page 78. I love that. I'm telling you, because like I said, that is really where God tries to get us to. Like I said, he wants us to trust him totally. Have faith in him totally. Your faith is what makes you whole. And I can say so many examples. And sometimes as a leader, you see people and you're like, they might be going, yourself when you was going through before you matured or whatever, one thing after another. And God is sitting back and I believe saying, well, how much do you think that you can bear? There's a scripture that says he won't give you more than you can bear. But what about if you keep trying to take on and bear, until you just say, you know what? He has to get it to a place, to where you have to say, you know what? I can't do this. One of my leaders that has now passed on, I call him the GOAT. He would say, your arms are too short to box with God. And just keep on, I'll say, thank you, you're grown. And God will, he chasing whom he loves. He will definitely get you to where he will have you ain't gonna, you gonna keep on, and not surrender. You definitely, the best thing to do is to go ahead and surrender. To go ahead and surrender. And that right there to me is special because like I've been there, done that. Like they said, the beginning of real hope is the beginning of God's transformation. And so I love that. We must know that powerlessness is not helplessness. Powerlessness, helplessness is believing we are victims and cannot change our lives. Powerlessness is admitting that only God can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. We are human, we are limited, we make mistakes, we can be wounded, we need the help of God and others. Powerlessness is letting go of those things which we cannot control, of the illusion of control. Now, I want to give two examples. There's examples of external versus internal powerlessness. And one external is, I am powerless over my mother's behavior. This is an external perspective. Another example from Journey to Freedom says, I am powerless over my need to control my mother's behavior and my need to feel loved by her. This is a deeper internal self-examination. And it gets to the heart of what we truly need to relinquish control over. And so that is just our next step, extending grace to yourself, speaking out loud, habits and attachments and relationships or goals, that you are powerless over. You have to be as specific as possible. Address your deeper internal motivations rather than only external forces. And admitting powerlessness helps you change. So remember on this topic, it's not Like they say, powerlessness is not helplessness, but it is knowing that what I cannot do, God can.
That's good.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I wanted to, because our whole topic tonight was about the fear. It's the hidden things that we're going through. But seems like we stayed on the fear, and one of the feelings, because we're talking about the different feelings, and so this one is the fear. And one of the impairment was the anxiety and the rage that you actually go through. And then the benefit is the alert us to danger. Like the fear that I had because of this rolling that we still trying to find. You see what I'm saying? Like that alert the inner side of me to the fear. I mean the danger. And I'm gonna tell you something else because we're down to about 9 minutes here. But I'm gonna tell this testimony is actually a true testimony. My one of my sisters in Christ when I was attending my college church, she had a apartment, and I remember I think I stayed over there or something like that, and of course we was all single, and it was just me and her because the other sisters had left. So it was me and her. We was getting ready to go to church. It was a Friday night. Of course, that's where we was always at. Friday nights was at church. And so she was like, oh, so we was getting everything out, trying to throw things away, our whatever little parties or something we had, just like fellowship, I guess is what it's called. And so I actually, so she gave me that to throw away. So as I was walking out of her apartment, I remember I saw two guys, okay, and they was coming towards us. And she was like lurking behind, but something inside of me said, stop. And I stopped, okay? I stopped and I walked back and I said, let's just wait a while, okay? So we ended up waiting a few minutes, and then we got on in her truck, and then we dropped it off, and we got closer to the dumpster. Later on, she called back and told me, I guess she got back from church, she called back and told me, do you know there was a break-in? Wow. And she said, the first thing came to my mind is when he says, I had to, you see what I'm saying? So it's so good. It's so important that we do listen to the Holy Spirit and to that fear, that danger, because He can alert you to something. I totally believe that God has protected me from so many situations. You see what I'm saying? And I'm sure many can attest to that. God has protected you and us from different situations that we didn't even seen and unseen danger. And that's why it's so important to listen to Him when He's telling you to do something, because I kid you not, it was two of them that was coming towards us, and I was headed that way, and when it came to my mind, I was like, whatever. And some said stop, and I stopped. It's like I froze in that spot and could not move. When I turned back, I went back to the shoe and I said, let's just wait a while. And I said, and then we went on and left or whatever. So I just wanted to say that fear is a benefit. You know what I mean? It's a benefit because it does alert us to danger, and it helps us to practice and be prepared. And also it grows us in our faith and our wisdom. You see what I'm saying? Right. So I just wanted to bring that out because that was our feeling and our topic tonight that we're talking about. So the key to when we're talking about these feelings, and we're down to 6 minutes, and I'm gonna let you close this out. But the key to these feelings is that it's not for us to wallow in those feelings and to be out of control. It's not about that. This book is not about it's okay to feel a certain way and you just become this emotional drama person. No, we're not saying that. What we're saying is to identify what that impairment is. You know what I'm saying? And then use that as a benefit instead of as a collective. And that's the whole purpose of the journey to the freedom, is understanding your feelings and then use it as a benefit. So I just want to go ahead, and you did a great job tonight. Again, we're down to 5 minutes. So I'll let you close out so that we know what to expect for next week. This is week 2. And this went about real quick. This went about real quick tonight. So we're going to talk about, what you're going to tell us about next week, which is going to be our 3rd week, and after that it's going to be the 4th week, and look, we ain't even got through the whole month, so this is real good. And I want to thank those who come along and listen to a lady, please share with those that's on your particular Facebook page. Again, this is not an opportunity for us to sit up and cry and be all watery, but we do try to be real. That's the only way I know how to be is real. And so, we have a very competent person that can really take us through those steps and just really help us to to help the impairment of our feelings to become a benefit. And I'm turning it over to you, Lady Martin.
Amen. So yes, definitely. Remember, she said, let that fear be the benefit of that fear. That you feel it, but you're going to practice awareness and discernment. Like the Holy Spirit is a director, comforter. And so take that fear, like she said, is an awareness. Practice that intentionally. To be aware and practice your discernment. And so as we end out on this session of our fear and our transformation versus reformation of our negative thinking and the inner critic and the different topics that we went over here during this, we have a couple of more that we'll hit on moving forward. But our next session will be on our week 5 and 6, because this was 3 and 4. Now we got to a certain topic, so we'll kind of go as the Lord leads us with that, to kind of still be able to hit. Our next one was actually just peace and forgiveness for this one. And then the next one was talking about is relationships on the journey and embracing universality and evaluating our relationships in our lives and hitting our problems head on. So those were actually our next topics that, we're going to be mindful of everyone's time, but we'll kind of let the Lord tell us how to kind of make sure we put that in there, because those are great as well in helping us on this journey to freedom through this book study. But next week also, if you're in the book and you go ahead and invest in you to do that, it's going to be week 5 and 6, which are pages 125 through 198, but those are days 19 through 30. And also continue to always remember your serenity prayer. I don't want to leave that out. Every time we, we do this, we want to take that with us. We want to make sure, because even after this sessions and study that we're doing with each other, we stick to that. When you can't do anything else, just read out, every day, try to read that serenity prayer out, And so that's all we have for you all on the wisdom table on this week. We hope you enjoyed and was a blessing for you. And so if you want me to turn it back over, that's what we have for you on today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lady Martin. We're down to 2 minutes. So again, we just thank you for joining us tonight. We had a great time. I really had a great time discussing fear and denial and all those wonderful things that we try to hide and isolate ourselves from, And so we just really thank you for joining us tonight. I see Lady Bats on here. She said great conversation. Thank you for joining us. Lady actually the CEO of First Ladies Inc. So thank you for joining us. I know she's a busy lady, so we're so glad that those who was able to join us, or you're going to catch us on a replay. We're so grateful. I see my sister on here. She says she liking and she's sharing. So we just want to thank you guys, Lady Chambers, she's been talking to us tonight. So just again, continue to share with your friends and your circle of love, because guess what? This is good information that we all can use, okay? None of us have arrived, okay? It doesn't matter what your title is, okay? You can be whatever, the highest, whatever. But guess what? We all got feelings. My grandmother used to say, no, I ain't gonna say what she used to say. Anyway, what she was trying to say is that we all human. And so we're just gonna go out at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Lady Martin. We'll see you on next Monday. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bless you, everyone. Good night.